It's called, I think, ECAL, and then it's this month's meeting, so it's September 2024. I did happen to bring my zip drive, but it was like...
Here we go, meeting September.
Yeah. Okay.
Fine.
All right. Does anybody see Jan? Okay. There was I was gonna relay a message to her from Baratra about speaking in Manhattan, but all right. Well, welcome everybody. Do we need a sign-up sheet? Do we need introductions? Might as well.
Okay.
I'm Doug Gooden.
Russell Valentine.
Parker Blessing.
Michael Reese.
Corby Reese. Laura Mooney.
Tony Castanet.
Ed Boyer. Wes Giles.
Gary Hutt. Justin Praska.
Let's see. Can I drive for a second? Okay, thanks. All right. I guess we welcome everybody. Okay, where are we at?
Left. Yep. Left mouse click should do it.
It's
Wrong one.
something happened.
Oh, went to the wrong. You're messy.
Maybe you can't see the sensor from the back of the computer.
Can't see with this much light.
Maybe
Well,
it
it's
has to be
dark.
dark. Cut out some of the lights. Okay, maybe we should switch places for a minute, at least until we're ready to pass over. Okay. Well, again, welcome everybody. Sorry about the technical glitch there. Announcements, club business, and upcoming meetings. October 5th is now going to be something else, right? It was scheduled to be a public night. Now I think there's something scheduled on
The
that night.
National Honor Society is coming
Yeah.
out on either the 4th, according to Janelle, last I saw. Although I think our public night was scheduled for the 5th.
And the 5th would be a Saturday and the 4th a Friday, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the status on that was. That's one of the reasons why I was hoping that she'd be here, so that we would
Yeah.
get a little better feel for that. But I'll follow up on that and see if I can figure out anything more on that. So next general meeting is October 24th. Little word on the topic here in a minute. And then don't forget, obviously, that the November meeting will be a little earlier because of the Thanksgiving holiday. But Thanksgiving's late this year, so that meeting will kind of happen a little later too. So these are the upcoming meetings. Any announcements? Anybody got anything?
It's a good night last night. Had a lot of Leos picked up.
Yeah. Did you get any fog?
None, not a bit.
Really? I drove early this morning from Shawnee back to Manhattan and drove through a lot of fog.
Of course, I closed up shop before 6, so, and it's 93% humidity then, so I'm guessing it kept climbing.
Yeah.
Probably produced fog.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't have any.
Cool.
All night.
Yeah. Anything else?
It's supposed to have been a Nova sometime in the month of September. Any news on that, where it actually took place, or?
No.
Actually, I don't think it's gone off yet. It's T Corona Borealis.
Yeah, Blaze Star.
T-Corbor.
Yeah, T Corbor, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, as far as I've seen nothing on it that would suggest that.
And then our second moon is supposed to be more visible or something.
It will be coming up, but not right now.
Yeah, we had an inquiry about that I guess you followed up on.
Yes,
Who was that from?
somebody from Ottawa,
Okay.
I don't remember their name, but that particular one was a recent capture. So, and it's, right now, it's in kind of a horseshoe orbit, which is really kind of a strange orbit, but that's a normal orbit that happens to some of these satellites that get captured. So the thing's only about 30 meters diameter, it's not very big.
Wow.
So it may be coined mini moon, but it's far from a moon. It's an asteroid that got captured by the Earth's gravitation force.
Large rock.
Okay, yeah, it's a large rock. Anyway, it will be visible from about mid-December to mid-January.
And then we're gonna lose it after about 2 months or something like that, or?
Yeah, and it'll be gone for several years, I think.
Yeah.
And then come back again, but eventually it's gonna lose its way, so it'll get lost again.
Or we get stuck
Yeah,
in-
as small as it is,
Mhm.
what magnitude are they?
Well, it depends. Right now, it's about 23rd,
Don't want it-
which is
but
the
in
reason why
January.
nobody's picking it up.
Yeah.
Plus, it's closer to the sun than we
Right.
think. So, but because of its orbit, it will come back around and get close to the Earth again, and get down to, I think, 19th magnitude before it starts climbing back and getting dimmer again. So, yeah. I will probably image it sometime during that period.
Okay. I did want to point out a few things here, which we just kind of touched on a little bit. These were from an email that Jan circulated. These are upcoming visits to Farpoint. So the October 4th one is the Mission Valley Honor Society, I guess the High School Honor Society.
Yes.
That one seems like kind of a strategically important one, you know, for making sure that we are still kind of.
And they turn off the football
And they
lights
turn
like
off
they
the
didn't
football
last
lights.
night till 6 o'clock in the morning.
So was it practice or something? They left them on, or do we
Something.
know?
Whatever it was, they left them on all night.
And those are lights that we don't have any
Oh,
control over.
we can't do anything with them. Once those are on, we're done.
Yeah,
Too bad, it was a good night.
yeah, that's frustrating. So that's on the 4th. On the 26th then is the 6th grade from, was it Maynard D?
Matinee.
That's that was the one that, or maybe it was the November 22nd, 23rd one, that will be both kids and like adult chaperones, I guess.
Well, I think both of them are gonna have adult chaperones. I mean, you can't have a bunch of 6th graders without their, some parents going off on me. So, but Care Paravel traditionally has a lot of parents with their group, so.
Yeah.
And they
There's like
feed it, and they
6
bring out plenty of goodies.
Well, that's,
Yeah, they bring out snacks. We taught them to bring out sugary snacks, so.
yeah. I think sugary snacks plus children in the dark seems like a
Bad combination.
slightly dangerous combination to me, but, you know. So anyway, obviously, we could use whatever help we can get on these. I think I can probably make the October 4th one. The 26th one, I think I might not be available for that, but.
I know I'm out on the 26th one, because that's still weekend.
Okay.
I'll be in Salina.
And the November one seems far enough away that I
Yeah.
don't know, have no idea, but anyway.
Well, and that's getting within a week of Thanksgiving, so people kind of have things going on.
Right, right.
But we'll see.
But anyway, just kind of plant the idea out here so that we can kind of think ahead on this a little bit. Other things coming up. Next month, our presenter will be Sarah Lamb, who has presented with us before. She was a master's and did her undergraduate and master's degree at K-State, including one undergraduate degree in our department. Went on and did, is in the doctoral program in astrogeology at KU, so she's kind of made her way through the Kansas universities. But she, I saw her give this presentation to the, and Russ was there as well. That was pretty good, right? I enjoyed it. And Parker was there as well. And she volunteered to speak with us, so we're gonna have her next month. She'll talk about her experiences as an analog astronaut at the Mars Desert Research Station, which is a simulation in Utah where they kind of simulate a Mars mission, or what a Mars mission might be like if you were not actually on Mars. So anyway, it should be interesting, and she'll be with us in person. So there's actually a little YouTube video here that is her introduction thing, so if you're really curious about that, you can watch this. But it was an interesting, I thought an interesting talk. As far as what to do in November, still not quite sure. I emailed Ron and have had crickets so far.
Yeah.
My
Usually takes him a while.
So if he gets back with us, then he'll be up for November if we can schedule him. If not, we'll maybe try to schedule him later, or not at all, depending on him, I guess. But he's the sort of director, I guess, and founder of the Badlands Observatory in some tiny little town in South Dakota. So I think it would be an interesting talk, but we'll see. If that doesn't work, my backup plan is I have been working with this organization called Exoplanet Watch. And so my plan is to talk a little bit about that, unless somebody wants to volunteer. I mean, I'm always looking for volunteers.
I want to hear about Exoplanet Watch now.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Exoplanet Watch is a program, and in fact, the guy that they have a Slack site, I guess. By the way, your phone is ringing. They have a Slack site, and I connected with him a little while back, and the guy that runs the program, name's Rob Zillum, volunteered to give a talk. So my hope is maybe sometime after December, like January or so, we can get him to, it'll be a virtual talk, obviously, but they do kind of interesting work. They have this sort of network of telescopes and a website, and the deal is, kind of a citizen science thing. You go download their data and measure the orbital parameters of exoplanets, which is something very interesting to me. Some of them take their own data, which again is something we've talked about from time to time. So that will be, I'll try to give this presentation at some point, although I don't want to schedule too far ahead, because I'm not sure who's going to be in the chair in January. So I don't want to, I don't want to make any presumptions here. So
I think I would if I were you.
But I'm not going to schedule too far ahead because I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Okay, so that's November. December is the party. January is a whole new year, so I'm trying not to think that far ahead. Okay, so focus. I was trying to come up with a constellation that I either hadn't done before, and it was visible this time of year, or wasn't sort of cliched, I guess, And after thinking on that, I came up with one that's always been kind of a interesting one for me, and that's Cygnus. So I want to talk a little bit about the constellation Cygnus, the swan. Doesn't really look like a swan to me. I guess you could sort of see something bird-like in that configuration, though. It's a kind of a dim constellation. It's not particularly easy to see, but it has one really bright star in it, Deneb. So there's the constituent stars of it. It always looks to me like, back in Star Trek, they had in the old Star Trek, the original one, the bad guy ships.
Oh, yeah.
They look like, it looked to me like
Bird
one of
praise.
those, So, and in fact, it's been identified as a bird, or a bird-like, a bird-like feature by a lot of different cultures. So anyway, how to find it? It's one of the kind of circumpolar ones, so that it kind of circles around the pole star like the ones in that area do. It is a relatively dim constellation, so I always think of it as Deneb is one of the summer triangle, right? Which is interesting because now we're starting to get out of summer and it's starting to become a higher constellation because of just seasonal change. But if you think about the summer triangle of Altair, Vega, and Deneb, then Deneb is kind of the, I always thought of that as the head of the swan, but I'm guessing it's actually probably the rear end of the swan. You know, swans are, I guess, birds with their wings in the back, so my knowledge of birds is very limited, so anyway. So that's kind of how I find it. I did actually find it the other night, so, you know, my trick worked. And the story, and you know, again, it's a couple of things that always strike me about these constellation stories is one of them, some of the most innocuous constellations turn out to have stories associated with them. And the stories, at least the ones that derive from the Greek mythology, are just Greek gods exhibiting appallingly bad behavior. And this one is absolutely no exception to that. So the stories actually involves, as many of these do, a lot of different kind of threads in Greek mythology and a lot of different constellations in response to that. But the story, I guess, starts with King Tyndareus and Queen Leda. The queen was the queen of the Spartans. Okay, so Leda was renowned for her beauty, as these ones always seem to be, and came to the attention of Zeus, who of course was the king of the gods, I guess you could say, and pretty awful behavior in a lot of cases. And of course he became quite smitten with Leda, as he seemed to do pretty frequently, and his response to that was to seduce her in the form of a swan. So he disguised himself as a swan. Why exactly that did the trick is never really clear to me from the mythology, but that's the story. By the way, other kind of related stories here. One of the children of Leda and Tyndareus, who would have been human and mortal because not the offspring of a god, was Helen, right? The famous Helen of Troy. She became queen of Troy through marriage. She became smitten with a warrior named Paris, a Trojan warrior named Paris, who had either, depending on how you read the story, either kidnapped her or lured her away somehow. This did not make the king happy. He sent his armies out, and that was at least the mythical origin of the Trojan War, which was actually, there was a real war that happened in the Peloponnesian War, which the Trojan War kind of modeled after, I guess. But anyway, so the story of Helen of Troy, the face that launched 1,000 ships, was related in some way to this story as well. But the main thread was that Zeus disguised himself as a swan and seduced the queen, and offspring resulted. And the offspring of this, and by the way, it was really, really hard to find a depiction of this artistically that was not really family friendly. And to the point where some of them were kind of like, ew.
Pornographic?
Almost, yeah. I didn't know if we'd have any children here tonight, so I always want to make sure. So this was the least objectionable one I could find. Right? This was apparently something from a tapestry, I guess.
Looking around, I don't see too many kids here.
Yeah, well, there was one that was just like, you have got to be kidding me. But anyway, so this was the Zeus's seduction of Queen Leda. Here's another depiction. This one is not too bad. It also shows the swan, right? There's the character and the constellation, and then there's this one, I assume, pitching troth to Queen Leda. But anyway, the result of this actually were twin offspring, who we have also heard about. But here's another one of those kind of mythology things. These twins actually had different fathers. All right, so Castor was mortal. His father was the king, all right, Tyndareus. Pollux was immortal. He was the son of Zeus. In one version of the mythology, they're both born on the same night, but Castor is born in the usual way. Pollux is hatched from an egg. So that's one version of the story. Well, another version of the story has them conceived on the same night, which again, you know, the less I think about that, the better. But anyway, but so the brothers that are, of course, are represented in by the constellation Gemini are the offspring of this particular assignation. And I think we've talked about Gemini before, and the fact that, you know, these brothers were quite close to one another, and of course one immortal, one not immortal, so when the mortal brother died, it was kind of crushing to the immortal brother who was left behind. But, so anyway, this kind of ties Castor and Pollux into the story, and Gemini into the story as well. So this one kind of faint little constellation actually turns out to, you know, connect to a lot of threads in mythology. Also, a rather famous poem written about this called Leda and the Swan by William Butler Yeats, one of those poets I was probably supposed to read in college and probably did, but don't remember too much about. The poem I always think of is the Ozymandias poem, you know, the one about despairing of works or something like that. But apparently this is another one. And again, if you read pretty far into this poem, it really is kind of suggestive. So anyway, so this was a poem that was celebrated the Leda and the Swan, Leda and Zeus in the form of a swan. As far as stuff you can, there's Castor and Pollux, by the way, those constellation that represent those two brothers. So as far as the stuff you can actually see, this is actually one of the reasons why, indirectly why I chose Cygnus, was some of the things that you can see. And it's one of the constellations that kind of lies along the Milky Way, so there's a lot of stuff in it, and a lot of kind of famous sites in a lot of ways. So for example, here's a kind of a view of it, right? So there's, you know, there's the stars that are sort of the wings. There's Albireo, it's just second brightest star in the constellation. It's kind of the, I guess that would be the head of it. But you can see it kind of lies along the Milky Way, so there's a lot of rather famous objects. So for example, the North American Nebula is considered to be in Cygnus. So is the Veil, which is actually a bunch of different objects that all kind of lie together. So prominent objects that you can see, this is Alpha Cygni or Deneb. It's kind of an unusual star. It's what's called a type A2 supergiant, so it's a hot. You know, most supergiants are reddish and kind of cool, relatively speaking. This one is a kind of a hotter one, so it's quite bright star, 19th brightest star in the sky. It's also it's actually the prototype of what's called an Alpha Cygni variable star, which is a pulsar, but it's a non-radial pulsar. So some variable stars, pulsar variable stars, are variable because they physically get larger and smaller, right? The kind of most famous example of that is probably Polaris, right? Which is a type of variable star that physically expands and contracts, but it does it symmetrically, like, you know, blowing up a balloon or something like that. This particular one is a non-radial pulsar, which means that it pulses, but not like a balloon, more like bubbles coming out from the side of it or something like that. So that makes it a somewhat unusual type of star. It's actually thought that maybe it's evolving into what's called a Wolf-Rayet star, which is a symmetric variable star, I guess. So anyway, and because it's a bright, large star, even though it's probably not as old as the sun, it's kind of nearing the end of its life as well, because big stars burn their fuel faster. So it's thought to be completely out of hydrogen. No, it's strictly fusing helium and heavier elements at this point, I think. I don't know, does anybody?
I don't know, but I thought a Wolf-Rayet was pretty red.
Yeah, but that's when I think they've
It
evolved.
has a lot of transitioning to do to get to that point.
Yeah, but it's thought to be kind of on its way to that. Anyway, so other prominent objects, the second brightest star, Beta Cygni, or Albireo, is also sort of interesting. It's a quadruple star system, right? So it's actually a group of four. It's used a lot as kind of a visual double because the two kind of primary components of it make a pretty good visual double if you've got a telescope. But what I thought was interesting about Beta Cygni is that it's actually getting closer to us. You know, we think of objects in the universe as all in motion, which obviously they are, and we tend to think of them, at least I do, as kind of shorthand, as everything is getting further away. But in fact, you know, proper motion isn't necessarily the same thing as radial velocity, so or radial motion. So not everything is necessarily moving further away from us. And Beta Cygni is actually getting closer to us. So in about 3.8 million years, it'll be the brightest object in our sky, and it'll be fairly close to us, about 64 light years away, which is, you know, pretty much in the neighborhood compared to other things. So if, you know, whoever is around on Earth 3.8 million years from now, will have a really good view of this star. Pretty sure it won't be me, but unless something really unusual happens.
Well, that'll be about the time the Andromeda Galaxy starts to merge.
Yeah, yeah. It'd be a good time to, you know, not live here anymore. Anyway, so these are kind of the two of the prominent stars. Other prominent things, this is NGC 7000, or the North American Nebula, named because it kind of looks like North America. Right? I used to climb at this crag in Oklahoma that had a formation on it called North America because it sort of looked like this. So and it looked, the outline of it looked almost exactly like this. So the North American Nebula is a star-forming region. It used to be, it was thought originally that its illumination source was dim. That was what was providing the radiative flux that was causing this gas, this ionized hydrogen gas, to glow. And it's now thought to actually be that star right there, which is called Miro's diamond. I don't know who Miro was, but it's thought that this is the one that's illuminating now. But the principal star formation region is this thing down here called the Cygnus Wall, which is kind of like, I don't know, if this is North America, I guess that would be like coast of Mexico or something like that, you know, the west coast there. That's thought to be kind of the principal star forming region. And here's a view of it in a bunch of different wavelengths, so you can kind of see like this shot, because it sort of showed the, you know, how we're biased by what we see with invisible light. So there's the visible version, and it's pretty much like that. But if you look at it in the combination of visible and infrared, then that star forming region, that Cygnus wall, really pops out there. And here we're further kind of to the thermal infrared, and you can kind of see that becomes even more prominent. It kind of loses its North Americanness when we start getting into the infrared. And of course, this is one of the most photogenic objects. You know, it tends to appear a lot in astrophotography. When I was, I think, about 15 or 14, my dad gave me a copy for my birthday, a subscription to Astronomy magazine, which I don't even know exists anymore. Does it still? Is it still around? Well, it used to just have a white cover with an astrophoto on it, and the very first edition of it that I ever got had the North American Nebula as its cover art, so that's kind of stuck with me ever since. There's the veil. This is actually a supernova remnant, and it's a bunch of different things. Here it is in the UV. I kind of picked this though because it kind of shows that it's really, you know, we think of it as one object or one thing, but it's actually a bunch of different things. There's an eastern veil and a western veil, and several cataloged objects within it. So this is a view in the ultraviolet part of the spectrum that kind of brings that out. And then finally, this is again one of the reasons why I picked this particular constellation in deference to Justin and his well-known interest in black holes, right? This was the very first black hole ever discovered. It wasn't really understood at the time exactly what it was, but this anomalous X-ray source in the constellation Cygnus, called Cygnus X1, you know, imaginatively named the first X-ray source discovered in 1964, and now is understood to be a black hole. So you can kind of think of what's going on here, right? This was a double star system where the one component of it gravitationally collapsed into a black hole, right? So tremendous gravitational attraction. It began to draw material off of the companion star, and as that stuff kind of spiraled into the black hole and warmed up and heated up and started, and eventually gets hot enough to produce X-rays. And so they're thought to kind of come in these pulses that emerge from this. And this one, by the way, was also one of the very first applications of space astronomy. This was discovered actually by an X-ray detector, essentially a Geiger counter, that had been mounted on a rocket and launched up on a suborbital track. So this was launched, I think, from New Mexico back in the early 60s, and that's how this particular object was discovered in 1964. And it turns out actually that it still has a few surprises associated with it. It was thought to be, at the time it was kind of this startling discovery. Now it's kind of, one of many similar objects. But I saw, when I was doing a little research on for all this, I saw that there's actually kind of active research on it, and it's showing some unusually large amount of energy for something that's kind of at its energy state. So it still seems to have the ability to surprise. So anyway, that's a little look at Cygnus, one of the prominent autumn constellations. And with that, I will get out of the way and we'll have the main event.
Alrighty, thank you, Doug. Alright.
And yeah, you can just get rid of that.
Yeah.
Don't let me forget my zip drive.
Alright. Alright, so I'm going to, there's only a few slides here before we get into the main hands-on of this. So we're just going to go over quickly the specs, the capabilities, and then touch on the workflow, and then actually go through a simulated workflow. So specs, capabilities, basic workflow, again. Play. All right, so the specs of it, it's got 256 gigabyte of eMMC memory, or CMOS memory, 120 megabyte per second average read speed with 95 megabytes per second write speed. There's two versions of it, a 5 volt and a 12 volt. This is actually still the 12 volt input DC. And you got 4 12 volt DC output ports on it, which are on your side over here. And then you got 2.4 and a 2.5 dual band Wi-Fi hookup for it, with about 20 meter working distance range and about 2.4 G mode. 1 gigabit Ethernet port, 2 2.0 USB ports, and 2 3.0 USB ports, and then a DSLR shutter release port if you're going to use a DSLR with it, which there are certain ones you can use. And then 1 USB CCC port for exporting the files to the PC, which is basically over here. And then this also can read a external USB hard drive to it also if you hook it up and pull the files that way. Capabilities, Again, the storage, dual band antenna, easy to use interface, power monitoring for your, so you can run all of your accessories off of the ASI Air itself, all your different cameras. Dew heaters like that, you can adjust the power, how much power is going to each. DSO imaging, planetary imaging, auto guiding, and unmanned operations. So you are no longer tied to being right there next, cable hooked up, and you're outside in the freezing cold along with your scope. You're sitting in your nice house. Like Gary is every night.
That's right.
All right, so basically you do your power on, start ASI Air, and connect to the network, adjust your focus on your cameras, i.e. your guide and main scope camera, roll and all sky polar alignment or a regular polar alignment, and then select your targets, start imaging, and have some fun. So, I do want to show this. This is made to run, since it's made by ZWO, it primarily supports all ZWO products. It doesn't support any others per se, but you can hook up like these Canon DSLR cameras to it, and they will work with it. In the same way with the Nikon or the Sonys right here. So I'll go back up here to screen. Show ports. There you go. There's your DSLR, your power ports, external power ports, your USB, Ethernet, and then your antenna itself, and power on. It does come with the dovetail hookup on it, so it just slides right in, clamps down. And go ahead. Shut this down. All right. So even though this is made to work on Android and iPhone, you can run it through a BlueStacks here, which is a Android emulator, and there's one other one that is an Android emulator also that will, Acer will work on it. So initially when you get ASI Air powered on, you hear a beep. I'll go ahead and put in, make sure your grid coordinates here match up with where you're at. You can go in, okay. Disconnected, that's why.
So while this is connecting, I mean, I assume you've got a lithium battery in there. What's its capability?
Well, on the laptop,
No, on the air.
It's running off of electrical power.
Okay, so it doesn't have any self-contained batteries?
No,
Okay.
no self-contained battery. So you're running off of a
Mhm.
12 volt.
Standard 12 volt,
Yeah,
yeah, okay, power supply.
It's just sort of like a kind of like a power splitter. That's when it
Yeah.
says it powers, you can power your other things.
Right.
You use it like a dual barrel jack cable and
Yeah.
power other stuff.
so you can go ahead and select your 2 cameras. Other device, if you have your focus wheel on here, and then your automatic focuser. Make sure that your guide scope, your main scope, and your focal length is set right. Go ahead and hit enter. Just gonna start talking to it. Right, go in here. First off, station mode, that lets you run with regular Wi-Fi. So like if I'm out at Far Point, I can run with station mode. I can run, still search the internet while running this air, basically. Is what it's letting you do. Station mode. Come on, talk.
A lot of public Wi-Fi's don't let
Yeah,
other devices on the same Wi-Fi talk to each other. So
Is that a security?
yep. Alright. Okay. So, you got your camera controls here, you can set your gain, focal length, the temperature of it. You can do customized file names also for it, and the advanced settings, so forth. If your camera has the capabilities, which this one does, the 183 color. All right. Let's see. Then the guide camera. Let's see, guide. So I'm only using one 12 volt output for the main camera. Then the rest of it's just running off of USB port power. And then again, you could personalize for your temperature units and so forth. With camera. Oh, that's why.
I suspect the ASI Air is connected to the library, because you told me
Yeah.
to.
So this thing will store all your images taken for a whole
Yes.
night?
Yes.
And still have some.
I've got 2 nights of images stored on here.
Parker, you have one of these? You don't?
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive little device.
I just have 1,000 wires running everywhere on my school.
Well, to me, one of the impressive things about it is how quickly it plate solves.
Mm-hmm. Plate solve has been a boon to a lot of different types of
Yeah.
astronomy.
Yeah.
Would it run a camera with a filter wheel?
Yeah, that's all filter wheel was in there. It's most, like most other things, you gotta make sure all your setups are, you know, where they're supposed to be and annotated.
It will do live stacking if you want, but when I have wanted to live stack, you know, I've used this to plate solve to set up my guiding scope, and then disconnect the main or the main camera from the ASI Air and then plug it into my computer. So at that point, then I can run SharpCat for the live stock.
Yeah.
But
So you're just not using all the features of the
not
SA
using all the features, but
and substituting other,
yeah.
yeah.
And that's mainly because I'm a little more familiar with the
Right.
live stacking on SharpCat than I
Sure.
am on this. It has some features that I'm just more familiar with,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
no, it does a nice job on that.
I'll do a quick restart, maybe that'll help clear it. Apologize for the hiccup. But that's one of the things I have to fight with ISI on is
So I don't know.
sometimes it'll drop the connection and then,
I don't know if it remembers and automatically connects, but if you tell it to connect to the Topeka library and it connected, then when it boots up, it might just connect to the Topeka library again. Right? So you'll never be able, there's probably a button to make it go turn off station mode. So I think what is happening is booting up, going into station mode, connecting to the Topeka library Wi-Fi. and then you'll never be able to connect to it.
Well, and what I will often do is either run it off my telephone or off my iPad. And then I can be in an environment where I'm not dependent upon,
Yeah.
you know, some other source of Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I actually use a combination of both.
Yeah, it's still showing on my phone, it's connected through the,
Oh, connected on your phone?
yeah, on the
Oh,
library.
okay. Oh, on the library, yeah.
So the device is connected to the library Wi-Fi,
Yeah,
I think that's what's happening.
That's the issue.
and that's kind of,
So some devices have a button to make it forget that, but and normally wouldn't be a problem if you're at your house. You would connect to it through
Yeah.
your home Wi-Fi, but since this is since this probably blocks other devices from talking to each other on the Wi-Fi, then it's an issue.
And I use a combination of Ethernet and Wi-Fi. So, because you can't put everything that I do, I can't put everything on one system. Slows everything up too much. So I've got a new computer that sits in the observatory that actually controls everything, and then I download images off of that with the interface, Ethernet interface. Works pretty good. It's fast enough to handle it all then, because you're splitting up the loads. But it gets complicated too. Then you got different systems at work trying to control everything. So, but they all work together pretty well now. So. As long as I don't change anything on there.
You know they will.
Yeah, change one thing and you got 15 things down the line you got to take care of.
Oh yeah, my phone does see the ASIR.
Yeah. And then you can just scoop it out and just run it off of that. You know, another thing I really like about it is that before I start using this, if I wanted to image an object, you know, I would take a test image and, you know, it's not centered and then monkey around with all that. And with this, when I've asked it to go to an object and taken a test image, it's been dead center. And then, you know, I can just take my finger and I can just move where I want it to go if I wanted to move it off center or maybe it's.
You tell it to go to this point over here.
Well, yeah, you can do it by, you know, actually putting your finger and moving it, or you can. It has some controls that you can, you know, use the controls on it. Yeah. But I think it has, you know, 3 or 4 different ways you can move it.
Well, and probably it has that feature where you can tell it to, if you're not in the right spot, play it soft. If you're not in the right spot, move to the right spot.
Yeah.
It automatically does it when you tell it to go to a place. It automatically plays solves.
Yeah.
So you said you use your guide scope for pointing, or you have it on your main camera and then you switch after you fly?
I have my guide scope on my telescope,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I go ahead and set everything up, you know, connected through the telescope, and the computer and the programming is running through ASIR. But then when I want to do live stacking, I just simply unplug the port that goes from the camera to the ASI, and take that instead of plugging it into ASI, I just plug it into my computer.
Okay. So you probably do not dither then, which would be every time you take an image, it moves a little bit.
No, I don't.
then you need the ASIR to do that.
But for me, the plate solving and the go-to and the alignment, that alone, if it didn't do anything else, but for me, that alone would make it worthwhile.
Your guide scope is like 3mm
Yeah, it's
Focal length is
the
just-
120,
at 120.
yeah.
Oh, the
Yes,
guide camera
right,
is
yeah,
the
guide-
120.
Yeah, it's the ZWO 120.
What kind of guide scope?
Oh, it's the ZWO
Oh, they have a guide scope. too.
120 mm.
Oh, well, that's the guide camera. What about the scope?
The scope is,
There we go.
think of the brand, I've
Finally.
got a number of brands and they're all the same scope.
Hmm.
I think it's a Astrotech.
Okay. Again, apologies for the hiccups.
Yeah, like
Here.
one of these.
This is one of the things I got kind of deal with. With it.
Astrotech.
Back in the camera controls,
That's sold by,
okay, covered that.
Astronomic.
The Mini, you can change focal length and everything to gain. Your calibration correction steps. Advanced guiding on it. Dark library, guide bin. Then your scope controls. You can select, of course, what type of scope. Baud rate, set that. Yeah, okay. Tonight's best. It'll show you what your best objects are for the night, and then you just tell it to, let's say, like butterfly nebula, it'll go right to it.
Can you enter coordinates if you're looking for something that's not in a catalog?
What now?
Can you enter coordinates if you're looking for something that's not in a catalog?
Sold.
Yeah, you can give it coordinates, but normally it wants a full name. Like Blaze Star, you have to give it its NGC name or the IRC catalog name.
But if there's something you're looking for that's really not cataloged or if you were looking for a catalog star, but not in one of the general catalogs.
Like maybe the mini moon,
Or like the
Coming up.
minimum, yeah,
you know, if you had the coordinates for it.
yeah.
I have a sheet with coordinates on it. Not with me, but I can email it to everybody that's interested in it.
With the mini moon?
Yeah, if you click that go to button, I think it lets you. Right there on the bottom right.
Yeah.
Oh, that tells you has you go to that thing. Okay. So there's in preview, go to, there's RA and deck boxes.
So this is coordinate.
Yeah, Doug, I think that's your answer right there.
Okay, yeah,
You-
yeah.
You could take the box to the coordinates that you want.
Yeah.
And then it will salute to it.
Yeah.
So you can do it either way.
Yeah, this is actually kind of cool. You can just sort of find your way and then point. Right?
So you can use this on a tracking head for like a digital camera.
Yeah, for example, you wanted to do some wide field stuff,
Uh,
you probably want your digital camera.
yeah.
And
But if you had a tracking head that you mounted the camera on,
Talking back to doing those, eh?
yeah, or something, yeah.
I think you could do that, because I think you can then plug your. If it's one
DSLR,
of
yeah,
the- If it was one of the supported cameras.
It was
You could just plug that
that
into it.
Nikon 850.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you can use a DSLR camera instead of the,
Telescope.
Yeah.
well, yeah, instead of the ZWO.
yeah, it needs to be one of those supported ones.
Yeah.
You could put it in the telescope or you could have it on the
You could
telescope.
put it on the telescope. You
Uh-huh.
could-
Yeah,
You could piggyback it and then run your cable
Cable.
from your
yep,
camera into the port where normally you plug in the telescope.
right.
I
Oh,
think
okay, now I'm following you.
I think you could, even without the cable, I think you could plug USB into it, because I'm pretty sure it uses the DSL support from Indy to do that connection. So you can hook it, you can have a USB port even connected, or you can use the shutter cable, either one. So like, the shutter cable would work for anything that could use the shutter cable, but I think the supported list is for if you hook the USB connection to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can, if you wanted to go to, let's say Saturn, then just go to, right there on the map. But before you do that, you gotta go into your focus on here. So you check your focus of your camera and your guide scope on here. And then you change your bin level to bin 1, bin 2, bin 3, bin 4, along with your exposure setting.
You should take the cap off and let's see on your guide scope.
See if we can focus on anything.
Yeah. You don't have to
Be
change
blinded.
focus, but you might be able to see the corner.
Yeah, that's a really good view of the.
That we could see a fly that's on the wall.
Bing, bing.
Yeah.
So, and then of course you can change your exposure or your histogram down here on the bottom. You zoom also. Focus your control, it's right there, so you can use the automatic focuser, which I have on here. And you just go into AF and then it'll focus in on your target star or whatever the guide scope is seeing as a good target.
Just at it, when it's a good point for you to do so, would you go back to the search, you know, where we clicked on the image?
Okay.
You know,
Back to-
yes, okay, yeah, hold it there. And for me, those graphs are really helpful. I often will wonder, well, what's gonna be up tonight at a given time?
Oh, yeah.
And I can look at that graph and I can see, you know, how far it's gonna be above the horizon. From the arrow, I know where it's coming up. I know the time that it will,
Yeah, it's best
yeah,
to
so
look at.
I guess maybe that's telling on some of my lazy elements where I don't necessarily go and say, well, what's gonna be up at a particular point in time and how high is it gonna be? I just look at those and I'll just scroll down it if I don't have a particular target in mind. And from that, I'd say, well, that would be a fun one to get tonight. And I can get it at midnight and it's not gonna be blocked by my trees and,
Yeah, like Pelican Nebula,
yeah.
right here would be a really good example. It's up really nice and high right now, so scope would just be basically straight north.
So that's altitude above the local horizon.
Yeah,
And if you see that, then you just.
yeah,
you
45,
just click
yeah,
on the
because
go to
45
it,
degrees
select
above the
right
local
there.
horizon, or
Yeah.
right there 90 to be straight up.
Kind of getting it out of the muck at that point.
Yeah. And then you can even set it, and you go back into the settings on, I think it was the scope itself. And ready, flip, sync to mount. But you could, it was somewhere in here. Okay, maybe it's the view object. But the settings, you can set the settings for how far above the horizon you want to go.
Oh, so it'll filter out anything that's.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that green icon on the top right.
Yeah, that looks like.
Yeah, the filter. There we go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can you set up a sequence? Like if you want to.
Yes. Yeah, you can program in a sequence. That is in a different portion in here. So, okay, so we're in focus, pull out focus.
I think that's in your plan.
Yeah, that's in the plan here.
Mm-hmm.
But before you do that, once you get your focus set, you want to go into polar alignment. Now there's two ways you can do it. If you go back into the mount settings on here, or it was in the main preferences in here to where you can do the all sky. And I think it's about arm ready and flip.
So does it use GPS off of the mount?
Yes, it does use GPS off the mount and then also off your phone.
Okay.
So
It
it
doesn't have
uses,
GPS in the unit itself, but it uses it.
yeah.
Okay.
So wherever you're, because that, when I go into the settings or the initial page, when you turned it on and you're seeing the grid coordinates right there, you,
How do you know it's from your phone or from your telescope?
Well, if your telescope doesn't have it.
yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But what does it access first?
Well,
Does it try to do the
I think
mount?
it just goes to your phone or your tablet for
Yeah.
that.
Phone or tablet, but
So-
then,
So it probably just ignores what the GPS is on there then.
yeah,
I think that's where it picks it up. I think it picks it up off your phone.
If you have the emulator, you have it doesn't have the GPS.
but in any case, I'll bounce off
Yeah,
of
he's
the
running it on
compass
the
or
computer.
whatever
Yeah,
on
sure.
here for,
It doesn't
make
have-
sure
So
that
it doesn't read the GPS.
it's
Yeah, or it's
seeing the
wrong.
right coordinates.
Right.
Or the things inside. So it's-
Uh, Polar alignment. Bend to, you can't change the bending on it. He'll take the first image, try to plate solve. Of course, no stars.
What?
Yeah, if it could see through the ceiling, I would be really impressed.
Yeah.
It says stop, yeah.
But you do your polar alignment, and even if the first time me and Russ did it, we basically had it set, I had it in the settings for all sky, so you could, instead of just doing a straight North Star polar alignment like you normally would, you could go to any position in the night sky.
Plates all over here, and then it figures out
Right.
where the north
It
is.
figures out.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. That's becoming more and more common
Yeah.
instruments now.
So then from there, once you do your polar alignment, then you can go into your preview mode. That's whatever you're looking at on the sky there. Live mode is normally what I've done now for imaging. I haven't gone into the auto run as you were,
Right, yeah, planning,
yeah.
yeah.
So on live mode, you can go in, save each. Now I've already, your flats, your darks, your bias on there. You can set all that up.
And you can set up the sequence that you want it to
Yeah.
take.
So you get your flat, so like anytime you're doing radar astrophotography, you do your darks, your flats, and your sky flats, and your bias. So
And you do your flats with the sky?
yeah, I'll do flats with sky. Basically, I'll have it pointing due north and catch just north, sky flats. And do that quick imaging, so I have those. Live. Auto run, then you can, yeah, target M31. So you can set up your shooting schedule and then shut down SARE after it. I haven't done anything like that. I just go through and see, hey, that looks good for what's up nice and high, and then, in which basically live mode is all I've ever used so far.
And that's just interactive use.
Yeah. So again, your exposure you can set 20 seconds is what I'll normally do because of the live stack for when we went to the convention. They said during the live stack, you basically want to do no longer than 20 seconds. Because otherwise you'll start getting your star streaks.
With if you do guiding, you should be able to do longer. But
Yeah.
I don't think so.
And the guiding is pretty impressive with this.
Mm.
You know, it'll give you a little graph that shows you how many seconds or a fraction of
Oh,
a
yeah.
second
How to
the
correct.
scope's off, and you can see how it's adjusting.
Yeah, because right here, you go up here, this goes to your guide camera right here. It'll pick up the imaging of, your guide camera. You just, there's the guide camera. Stop. Oh, yeah. Close back.
So let's see the results, Justin.
Yeah, let's look at
All right, so, yeah, camera, your guide scope, your mount, your automatic focuser controls on there. Then you go into the memory on it itself. It shows you how much you've used, 233. So I've got plenty of image management. Then you go into, there's stacked, live. So there's all the darks, master darks I took in 20 seconds, bin for gain. That's all in the file name. Your bias, your flats. So we'll go out. DSOs, you go into your DSO stacking on there. Lights, let's see. Yeah, file name IC 1396. Go.
So these are unstacked images from the
Yeah.
sequence.
These are unstacked. It'll, once you do a set of imaging, like I did NGC, go live, okay. So like, NGC 6946, it was 20, it took me 21 minutes to stack the images of it. So I did the image, So,
21
yeah,
minutes.
it took 21 minutes to stack the images.
Of 20-second images per,
Correct.
so you had,
63.
60-some images then?
Yeah, 69 lights,
Yeah,
line images it took, and it took 21 minutes to stack it.
wow.
You mean that 21 minutes of total time is what you have, or do you mean?
Total image
Yeah,
time.
so once I told it, once I did all the images,
Mm-hmm.
select all, okay, and then you go done. Once I selected those, told it to stack right there, it took 21 minutes to do that.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Right.
That seems kind of slow, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got all these images taken, and it takes 21 minutes to put them all together,
Yeah, it'll do a stack, it'll do a quick stack.
Right,
And it took 21 minutes
Yeah.
to do it that night.
That, that might be one of the advantages of the live stacking in that it'll stack
Well,
Yeah.
each image as it
One
comes
right after
in.
another.
And so if you're
And-
doing, let's say.
But what would be the interval in between then? So you got your image time, and then how much time would it take to put those two together, and then stack the next one? I mean, it's pretty negligible.
Yeah, it's negligible. So if you are, let's say, going to have a run time of an hour,
Mhm.
and you know how many images you're taking during that period, you know, at the end of that hour, you have pretty much your stacked file. One of the ways that it, I think, has some efficiency on it is that on your master darks and
Mhm.
flats and so forth, rather than going through each of those during the stacking process, it creates a master dark or a master
Right,
flat.
right, and then just applies that one
And
time.
then just applies that, yeah. And so that would save some time.
Yeah.
So like, Iggy fireworks,
So is this one of your,
yeah, this is one I
this is
did
just-
by myself without Russ that last time I went out. So this is after processing of it. You could do a little bit changing the hue and so forth in it. You could do a little bit of, yeah, you go up here to the edit, and you can change your brightness, contrast. You could change it a little bit.
But if you want that real sharp and stuff, you need to take that file, the stack file, put it in something like Lightroom or whatever.
Or surreal,
Yeah.
in which you go back. Don't save. Okay.
I
So,
can see a lot of things there that Lightroom could
Yeah,
improve.
yeah, and you can export that,
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
yes.
yeah, so so when you go into your live, so like, I see fireworks right there. There's all of the live images I took.
Mhm.
So you could take all of those images, transfer them over to my external hard drive here, and then you can use Surreal to do its stacking
Mhm.
and follow up processing with Surreal. That way.
Well, the way I do it is I use.
Or whatever program you want to.
I
So you
use,
can,
Deep Sky Stacker,
yeah,
and then I take that one monster of a file and put it in Lightroom, and that's when I clean it up and
or
make it a lot
Lightroom,
smaller.
or I'm trying to get used to Surreal.
Yeah, whatever it is, whatever.
Yeah,
program
or
you wanna
whatever
use.
program you want to use.
That's pretty impressive. That LGC 6946 is 18 million light years away.
Yeah.
So it's a close one
Yeah. Practically
Yeah.
neighbors.
then. That's actually considered to be the local group.
Yeah.
By accident one night.
So,
Purely accident. We
yeah,
did
well,
one
uh,
360
The
million.
processed ones. So this is how it looked after
It's hard to get something close.
Elephant trunk.
What's this?
Nebula.
Okay.
This is one of the ones. I was trying to get I didn't put on the nebula filter onto the end of the camera here. It may have tried to pick up some of that gas then. That way,
Yeah, I mean, you just need more time on it, really.
yeah. M57, Yeah, Ring Nebula, that was one I did by myself, right there. Also, the stacked image of it.
Now, was that out of PowerPoint or is that?
Yeah, these are all out at Farpoint.
Okay.
I haven't done any imaging from the house yet
That's where
with
you
the
need-
light pollution.
That's where you need your nebula filter to knock out the light pollution.
Let's see.
That's the digital
Yeah,
camera.
it's-
Yeah,
That's good.
Firework,
Right, 'cause of the-
Yeah.
Galaxy, M27. Yeah, this one me and Russ did together. The dumbbell nebula.
Yeah.
So yeah, Russ was impressed just with the imaging. It was like, damn, you're picking up the
Got
the white dwarf right there in the center of it. It was like, holy crap. Yeah, and then M74.
M74 is pretty faint. I mean, it's pretty spread out. The light's pretty spread out with it. So it's not an easy one to pick up, I think.
And it did a pretty decent job. I didn't do the lights and the darks correctly. That's why I've got the edge glow on the side
Yeah,
from the camera.
yeah. that's-
Filter that
yeah,
out.
Right. Some CMOS cameras now take care of that for you, so you don't have to worry about trying to take that out. The ones we've got on the PowerPoint, and the one I have, takes it out automatically. It's a, what do you call it, glow,
Edge,
yeah,
or the lamp glow.
yeah.
But this one, I did the correct lights and darks set up before I imaged.
So is it my imagination, or is the right-hand side of that a little bit out of focus compared to the left-hand side?
Might be, maybe a little camera tilt on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
But yeah, after you get focused in on your object, or you pick up your object, then you go into the focuser, and it'll focus in. On it.
It looks like on several shots that your focus was like your camera's got a little tilt to it. And that could be a coma corrector issue if you're using a coma corrector. I don't know, why are you using a coma corrector?
No.
No. Or it could be collimation. Usually that's a camera tilt though. You see that?
Cyril lets you measure camera tilt, so using one of your images so you can see if maybe if Cyril thinks it's camera tilt or not.
Yeah.
But in that case, all the live images are still on here, plus with what I stacked. So, and then the darks, the bias, and the flats. So all of that is on here using the settings, and I've still got plenty of room to on here. So everything I've taken, I've hooked up the cable to the laptop here and just pulled everything off of it and put it on my external drive here. So that way then I can use Surreal to do all the stacking of the live images again. And just try to do the follow-on processing with that.
Well, it doesn't look like you're gonna run out of room anytime soon.
No.
Plenty of space.
You also were doing bin 4, right? So that helps.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're probably gonna get our warning here before too long, so.
Yeah.
We have, more questions?
But
Was it as easy as you thought it was going to be, Justin, or is it harder?
what now?
Did you think it was as easy as you thought, or is it harder than you thought it was going to be?
Actually, this controller has helped out a lot with the issues of the plate solving and polar alignment, to where I was losing. If I told it with the hand pad to go find Saturn, I was still several arc minutes off. I was like way off. It's like, no. Using this program has helped out a lot.
Because it does plate solve and then
Yeah.
repositions itself.
Nice.
And you can change your slew rate on here also to how fast you want to slew it. And then you've got the controls.
Or the noise level, increase the noise level.
And then it'll,
So you know it's
The more
on
noise,
your
the faster it's gonna
object, it'll show right here also that you are tracking on it. It'll go green. And then down here on the bottom, it shows your camera settings again, what your gain's at, your temperature of your camera that you have it set to. For the sweet spot on this 183 is like 100, the gain's at 111 and 14 degrees. Or minus 10, if you want to go Celsius route. And then your histogram, set it to the middle of the road and go. So focus, live, plan. You also got video mode also for doing like Saturn or Jupiter, which is primarily what you'd use, or even the moon, if you wanted to do video that way.
I assume you go to bin 1 then at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, you can change your bin on it, your file format, MP4, AVI, or both, and then your milliseconds or microseconds. BGM.
Don't know what BGM is.
Yeah. Or
Background.
horizontally, vertically, do your watermark.
Is that blue green management maybe?
That could be.
So that's like a color mixer?
That's what I was wondering.
You know, another neat thing that it does, if you want to take, let's say you're going after a distant galaxy and you wanted to have images over several nights, because of its ability to, finally plate solve, you can then start up on your second night or third night, and it will know where the object is in relationship to the star pattern, so it will center it the way it was when you left it. And you can then just keep up as though it had just been one continuous set of exposures.
It's pretty handy, because I know a lot of people take several nights
Yeah.
on one object.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're doing things with, your different color filters.
Yeah.
One night, with red, another night with the blue, et cetera.
Yeah, and something like that would be here in your plan, to where you could pick different objects for what you want to shoot and set it up, and then once it does everything, you can either have it shut down, it'll shut down the whole system, and then you can start up pull the images off the next day and go on. So it is a very robust system, and for me personally, it's solved a lot of issues. The cost on it was like $250, I think, there at the convention. I'd have to look back at my bank account again, but also, of course, it's going to depend which vendor you go through and what their markup is. But
It's mainly only compatible with ZWO cameras, though. It's mainly only compatible with ZWO cameras
And
Yeah.
there's SLRs.
and SLRs.
Well, and
and the selected SLRs.
that's strategy, so you buy their cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, cameras, automatic focuser, and the focusing wheel would also be ZWO.
right.
We're building up the switching costs.
Yep.
Well, I think we're probably gonna run a little short on time here, so should we go ahead and thank Justin for his presentation?
Yeah, thanks for confusing us some more.
So how do you find out about astronomy conventions?
Gary told
The
us.
convention, yeah, that Astronomical League convention was what it came up. This year's was in
This
Kansas
year's was
City.
in Kansas City, so it made it fairly easy to